Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you so much for checking out the channel. I do appreciate it. While you're here, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course, with the Atlanta Braves and all across Major League Baseball. So we don't have too terribly much to talk about tonight. Obviously, spring training is now in full gear. Behind the Braves just came out. If you didn't watch it, you can go check it out after the stream. Until then, you're going to stay here. But beyond that, it's been an interesting week. There's been, just a lot of talk about spring training, mostly around Major League Baseball. The Braves are no stranger to that. There's been a lot of interesting notes around spring training. Unfortunately, it's such a short spring training this year that, the typical talking points are limited. Usually we'd be talking about, who's going to prove themselves in spring training. And to be honest with you, before today, I didn't really think about this, but before today, I didn't realize that it's going to be such a small sample size, right? Like, we only have, another 2 weeks prior to opening day, if that. I mean, it's going to be a super small sample size. So I don't know if the opportunity to prove yourself necessarily is available in spring training. Not to say that it's completely gone, but it is significantly limited. Now, with that said, what I'm going to do in the first few minutes of the show is go through who I think are locks within the Braves right now. To be honest with you, this is a very tentative list. This is a very temporary list. It's not one that's going to last forever. But we're going to go through the starters. We're going to go through the bullpen. And, of course, we'll go through the position players. And I'll give you one last look at an entire list of the Braves locks that I think will be there on opening day, plus the locks that will be there throughout the regular season as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and start with the starters. Let's take a look at this. So your starters, obviously, the locks here, I mean, they're very obvious. Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson. Now, on the competing side, obviously you see Kyle Wright, Kyle Muller, Tucker Davidson, Waskari Noah. I mean, you could throw Spencer Strider into that if you wanted to. A couple others maybe in the lower level, but this is a narrowed down version of what I think could actually be. Now, obviously, you'd probably have at least two more starters on the left side. So out of those four, you're at least going to have two. The Braves have hinted that they may go to a six-man rotation. Now, if you're asking me who I think the favorites are here, I think Waskari Noah is one. I haven't seen him perform necessarily. Kyle Muller had a good day the other day. It's going to be hard to see. I really think early on they're going to give, throughout the regular season even, they're going to give these guys opportunities in general to, probably start out with who did the best in spring training and then move from there. But the moment one of them fails, give the other one a shot at the starting rotation. But even then, I think all these guys are locks to make the roster. I really do, and you'll see that as we move later in the video. But I think all of these guys are locks for the Braves roster on opening day, because I think our pitching, whether or not they're in the bullpen or whether or not they're on the rotation, I think we're going to have innings to cover. Obviously, we're down two starting spots right there. We can carry extra pitchers on the 28-man. I really think that, those guys are definite locks. Now, with that said, let's move to the bullpen. This is where we're going to get a little bit more interpretive, I guess. On the left, obviously, those are going to be your locks: Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, Tyler Matzik, A.J. Minter, Luke Jackson, Colin McHugh, and I'm going to throw in Sean Newcomb. And you might be looking at that with your eyebrow raised, but Sean Newcomb went through arbitration today. He got paid a little extra money. I definitely think he's a lock in some capacity. He may not make it to the roster for the full year, but I think opening day right now, that guy's going to be a lock. Competing, and these are, I think, majority, well, not majority, but I think a lot of these guys are going to be on the roster. But they are technically still competing. Darren O'Day, he signed a minor league deal. I think he'll be on the opening day roster, if I'm honest with you. But I can't put him there just yet. Spencer Strider's competing. Jose De La Cruz competing. Tyler Thornburg, Brad Brock, Dylan Lee, Jacob Webb. Now, Tyler Thornburg and Brad Brock were a part of Double A's big week last week, and I hope you guys enjoyed that video. We had a long talk about that. Those guys may or may not make the roster. Thornburg, we're not giving a whole lot to. 1 year, $900,000. He missed 2021 with Tommy John. Low-risk situation, but he is fighting for a spot. Now, and the bullpen's going to be solid. I think we're all aware of that. But these guys are adding depth to it. And, to be honest with you, I didn't fully understand until I started doing this breakdown of what I thought, the locks were. And we have a lot of spaces. You'll see that later on in the video. So there's definitely spots to be had here, especially in terms of pitching. And Brad Brock, obviously, we talked about him the other day. Not a great 2021 at all, but he's looking to fight his way back. Maybe he's got a veteran approach. Maybe he can add something to the bullpen if necessary. But for right now, this is the bullpen locks. Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, Matzik, A.J. Minter, Luke Jackson, Colin McHugh, and Sean Newcomb. No big surprise there. I think if you look on that right side, you're going to look at some guys and go, well, those guys should be locks. Probably. But for right now, we're too early on. And to be honest with you, again, such a small sample size in spring training so far, and such a small sample size of spring training in general. But for right now, Newcomb is definitely a lock. I don't see it any other way. But he's in a spot to where he's got arbitration, he's out of options, and all that good stuff. But I think he's definitely going to make opening day roster, and we'll see what happens throughout the regular season with him. Obviously, we're rooting for him. We want him to, show some of what he had a couple of seasons ago, but that is yet to be seen. So we will see. Going on from there, we're going to move into the position players. Position players on the left, this is pretty, standard. Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, Darno, Duvall, Rosario, Ozuna, and Manny Pena. Obviously, you're paying Manny Pena to be your backup catcher. I think we're paying him $8 million over the next 2 years. He will be the backup catcher. You have Contreras for depth if need be, but Manny Pena is definitely the guy that is a lock on opening day. Make no mistake about it. Competing, you got Alex Dickerson. He was another one of those guys we picked up in A's big week last week, and this is a pickup that I actually really like. I think he may fill in the gap while Acuna's out in the outfield and let Ozuna be DH if he succeeds throughout spring training. Obviously, low risk, not a whole lot that we're paying him, so I think that works out good. We'll see. But I definitely think that he is competing for a spot in the outfield bench, or I think that's what he's ultimately competing for, is a spot on the roster throughout the year as a bench player or as a pinch hitter. That's what I think he's competing for. But we'll see. I mean, other than that, you got Travis Demeritte. He's more than likely going to be in AAA, but he is technically competing. He is for sure that he is going for that spot. And not to say that all guys aren't going for that spot, but we're just narrowing it down. Obviously, the focus isn't so much on position players. I think we can all see that. The focus is definitely more so on pitching. But for right now, this is where the Braves are at. Guillermo Heredia, to me, is probably a front runner. If I'm just completely blunt with you, I think he's probably the front runner just because of how much he contributed last year, how much the other players like him. I mean, it's his spot to lose is how I would word that. And I think the same goes for Orlando Arcia. Orlando Arcia is an infielder, but he's been playing a lot of outfield, which I find interesting. It makes me wonder, are they trying to find a spot for him in general? Or are they just testing out and seeing what options they have in every spot? So, again, it's spring training. It's hard to fully grasp what the season's going to be, what the team's going to be throughout the year. But it is interesting that when you start breaking this down and you look at all the spots that are open, which is what we're going to look at right now. So the spots that are open, these are all the locks I just gave you. And I put, again, the starters I added on the end there, Huascar Noah, Tucker Davidson, Kyle Muller, Kyle Wright. I'm putting them on here because I genuinely think that those guys do belong. And by the way, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson are going to be your 21, 22, and 23 as well. So there are 5 spots. That is my mistake there. I will fix that later. But Max Fried, Ian Anderson, and Charlie Morton do belong in that list for sure. But yeah, so you're going to have 5 spots open, and that's where the competition lies. So we'll see. I got some questions asking me, is that the lineup? No. In terms of the position players, no, that is not the lineup. You're talking about this graphic right here. That is not the lineup at all. That is just me listing the position players with no particular order. If it was the lineup, I would not have Marcell Ozuna hitting 8th, nor would I have 2 catchers in there. But yeah, that's not the lineup. That's just me listing out what the situation is. So those are the locks. Again, I'll go through them one more time. Position players: Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, Marcelo Zuna, Travis d'Arnaud, Manny Pena, Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, Matzik, AJ Minner, Luke Jackson, Colin McHugh, Sean Newcomb, Waskari Noah, Tucker Davidson, Kyle Muller, Kyle Wright, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Ian Anderson. So basically, the way I feel about it right now is, you're again, competition. We've added a lot of, depth pieces. We've added a lot of big pieces too. But you also have a lot returning. We didn't even mention Kirby Yates because Kirby Yates is injured. Ronald Acuna is not on that list right now. He's injured. Mike Soroka later coming back throughout the year, again injured. But as of right now, that's how I view it. And if you look around spring training, there's a lot of there is a lot of good things to be seen. If I'm honest with you, look at guys like Kyle Muller. Kyle Muller had a good day the other day. This is a guy who I've been following for a few years now. Went saw him in Gwinnett. That's where this video is from. I think that he could be a big part of the rotation this year if we let him. And that's only if we let him. But, this is a guy who came in last year, put some time in, and was able to perform at a decent level as young as he was. And if you give him that spot now, I would question what he does with it in a good way. I'd want to see what he does with it. But that's not the only thing. Alex Anthopoulos has done a great job of piecing this team together. Obviously, with the replacement of Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson, that was a great move. But even after that, he had that big week last week where we signed Dickerson, Thornburg, Brock Holt. It was one guy after another. And I don't know that we're done yet. I don't know that that's necessarily what the situation is. But as of right now, I think we're basically at a point to where anything, we have enough, but we could also add more. And when you get Acuna back, when you get Mike Soroka back, and you add them to the guys that are on the team right now, I would say that I think we have a great shot at not only repeating but continuing a legacy of this team for a long time. And I keep pulling up that timetable, which I love this graphic, and I'm not just saying that because I made it. I love this graphic because I think it gives you a good representation of where the team is, right? You got Matt Olson till the end of time, basically, according to this graphic. Ronald Acuna Jr. for a very long time. Ozzie Albies. Enoa and Anderson till 2027. And then I think you'll probably re-sign Austin Riley alone there in that section there. But beyond that, Fried, Minter, Soroka, Matzik, you're going to have to re-sign these guys at some point. But I think we have a long time for success with this team. I think that is a definite, we have a core. We don't have to go add big name players with big name money necessarily. We can go get the Brock Holts of the world. We can go get the Alex Dickersons of the world, and we don't have to pay them necessarily a ton to add on to a team that has already not only won the World Series but proven themselves and proven what their core is. And again, I don't know that we're done yet. I don't know that that's necessarily what it's going to be, but I do know this. Around spring training, there's a lot of good things being seen. Michael Harris, on every notification I get, it's Michael Harris is doing something well. Drew Waters homered the other day. But the guy that I would tell you to keep an eye on, and I say this a lot, so it's not a surprise, the guy that I say keep an eye on is Austin Riley, because this guy's hit 2 home runs in the same game the other day. I believe he's definitely leading the charge in spring training as of right now. Obviously, no game today, but if you watch the Behind the Braves, they did a long piece on Austin Riley, longer style interview with him, and he talked about just how good he's feeling this year. He said that it's the best he's felt ever when it comes to spring. I think he's the guy to watch throughout the year, at least early on in the season. And if last year told us anything, it's that Austin Riley can perform throughout a season. He's going to be good up and down a season. So that's what I look for as of right now. But that's where I'm at with spring training. I would like to know where you are as well. We're going to read your comments in just a second. But again, before we go any further, like the video, share the video, tell your friends about the channel, all that good stuff. And of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything we got going on here. What's going on, Blake? What's going on, Tyler? What's going on, Jameson? Hey, everybody, how y'all doing? Going to read your comments now, so get them in. I'm not going to be on too terribly long tonight, to tell you the truth, but I will do it as long as I can. But it's good to see you too, RLP. Good to see you. Obviously, I've been gone a couple of days Been a little bit busy, had some work to do, but glad to be back. Glad to talk baseball. Glad that there's baseball to talk about. But good to see everybody tuning in. I'm trying to make sure I keep up to date with everything going on in the chat. So make sure we're good to go. All right. John L. says, go Dogs, and I mean Seminoles. Yep, go Seminoles. Go Knowles, as they say. RLP says, Tyler, it's so good to see you. Good to see you as well. Jameson, okay, looking at Austin Riley, he has not missed a beat at all. That's what I just said a few minutes ago, right? Austin Riley has been killing it in spring training. I'm excited to see what he does throughout the year. I've been excited to see what he does every year because I think every year Austin Riley has the potential to get better. And I think that's what, that's what makes him so good. It's not just the potential that he has, it's the potential that he seems to unlock every season, right? I mean, who would have thought he would have done what he did last year? He had an MVP level season after he had a season that was mildly okay, right? Every year he's gotten better. And as long as that's happening, the longer we'll be impressed with Austin Riley. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I agree with you, Jameson. Austin Riley has not missed a beat. Obviously, 2 home runs in the same day. I know it's just spring training, but that's obviously a good sign. So I completely agree. You also say, watching yesterday's spring training game, I really like what I saw from Kyle Wright, and it feels like he's going to be penciled into the starting rotation. Yeah, we just went through those locks. I definitely think penciled in is the best way to put it, because you got guys that, could potentially be a starter, definitely are going to be starters later in their career if they get to that point. Kyle Muller, Kyle Wright, Waskari Noah. I would even throw in Touki Toussaint. The only reason I didn't have Touki in that list is because he just got sent down to AAA. So you're either going to have guys come in, and you got 3 options when it comes to pitchers, right? They're going to be a part of the starting rotation, they're going to be a part of the bullpen, or they're going to be sent down to AAA. And when you go to AAA, that sounds bad, but when you go to AAA, you get starter level innings, right? You get starter length, and that's what I think they're probably working on with Touki, because Touki has good stuff. He had a rough day the other day. Maybe he'll work on it and come back to the majors at some point throughout the year, but he's got to figure out how to go longer, right? And I think that's the battle for a lot of these guys, even guys like Ian Anderson, who can go 5-6 innings, but also can wind up going 4, right? And if they can go longer, that's going to help the pen, that's going to help everybody. It starts with starting pitching. It really does. So, yeah, I think Kyle Wright's definitely penciled in, but I think he's penciled in along with 3 other guys, Waskari Noah, Kyle Muller, and Tucker Davidson. So we'll see what happens, but that's what's fun about spring training. The only thing about this year's spring training is that it is so short. It is really a short time, and it's a jump start, but it's going to be interesting to see how the pitching specifically goes, because at the end of the day, position players, hitters, batters, whatever you want to call them, they don't need as long as spring training typically goes for. Freddie Freeman used to mention that. He used to say, I need 2 weeks and then I'm good, right? I don't know that pitchers are the same way, because you don't get to start every day. So I don't know how much how many appearances these guys are going to get throughout spring training. And that's what I worry about a little bit in terms of, that's why I think throughout the, early part of the regular season, we're going to see these guys get tested on the mound, because it's much better to test these guys on the mound in May than it is to test these guys in September or August, right? So I think it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to have to see what happens. But yeah, I would definitely say Kyle Wright's penciled in. Good comment there. RLP says, anyone else upset that we didn't play today? I was so sad and excited to see Ian. Don't worry, we'll see Ian at some point. Obviously, the weather kind of threw out the game today, which is going to shorten the season even more. But, it is what it is. Matthew Anderson says, Nuke is definitely a lock for the time being. He's out of options, so he's pretty much got to stay. That is the situation. He also, again, just hit arbitration, which means we're paying him more money. So I definitely think that he's going to be, at least on opening day, he will be a lock. I can't say past that. I don't know what's going to happen throughout the regular season, but I definitely think that that's going to be where we're at. Jameson Meza says, he says he was really looking forward to seeing Ian on the mound today. Completely agree. John Kruger, are we sure on Travis Demeritte he will be in AAA? Yeah, but he is competing. That's what that graphic was saying. I'm not saying that he's going to be a lock. I'm saying that he's competing. On that graphic specifically, here, I'll pull it up. On that graphic specifically, on the left are your locks. The other guys are competing, right? I'm not saying that all those guys are going to make it. They very well may. I don't know. But what I am saying is those guys are trying to get to it. Travis Demerit's been in AAA a very long time. I think he's obviously fighting. I think he's had a pretty good spring training, but he will be in AAA for sure. I don't doubt that at all. I definitely think Guillermo Heredia, Orlando Arcia, and Alex Dickerson are the front runners there. But beyond that, it's hard to say. But appreciate the comment, man. All right, let's see. Let me see. Conforto to the Braves. A lot of people have been asking about Conforto to the Braves. That's from Garrett's Knowles. Yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to Conforto, a lot of people have asked me about it. The way I feel about Conforto, I pulled up his stats the other day, and I couldn't see a reason why we would want to target Conforto. I get he's a left-handed bat, but his stats don't jump off the page. He's gonna want 20 million. I don't think the Braves have 20 million to spend. I just don't see that that's where the Braves want to go. It would be interesting to say the least, but I just don't see how that's where the Braves that's what the Braves want to target. Not to mention they've been picking up all these other depth pieces. So for me right now, I don't think so. Let's see. John L. says, how has Olson looked? He's been traveling for work. I would say Olson's looked pretty good. He got robbed of a I don't know if it was a homer or a double or what, but he got robbed of one by Byron Buxton the other day. That was kind of funny, but he seems to be doing all right. He's looked good in batting practice, but again, guys, it's such a small sample size. Like, even as good as Austin Riley has looked, which he has, Michael Harris, again, has looked. It's a small sample size. And it's not necessarily against Major League pitching a lot of the time, especially in spring training. They're early on, which is, I think at this point you're going to start seeing the Max Frieds and Charlie Morton and Ian Anderson, who we mentioned, more. But we've seen a lot of younger guys, Spencer Strider, Kyle Muller. Those are the guys we got to see if they're going to be there. We know that Charlie Morton and Max Fried and Ian Anderson are going to be on the mound on opening day, right? Or on the roster on opening day. Those other guys, not so much. They got to figure out who's going to be ready to go for the year. So we'll see on that. But for me, Olson looks good, but it's hard to say. That's how I feel. I think Olson is going to be fine this year. I saw a projection the other day, and it basically said that Olson's projected to hit 43 homers. I would probably say that's about right. I don't know if I would take the over or under there, but I mean, that's a pretty good projection, right? So for right now, I definitely think that he's looked good. He's got a couple of hits, but that's all we really know. I haven't looked at the stats in depth because I hate to say this, but the spring training stats, a lot of the time, I mean, they're just so limited. And again, small sample size never provides a good stat, right? So for me, it's just he's looked okay. He's hit well. He's looked fine at first from what I can tell. But at the same time, it's such a small sample size. And until, we see him throughout the regular season, until we, get some time with him, it's going to be hard to say. But I don't see any reason to expect that he's going to be bad, if that's what you're asking me. I'm pulling up his spring training stats right now, if I can find it, which I'm sure I can. Matt Olson, he's hitting 333. He has played 4 games, and he's only had 6 at-bats. So it's a small sample size. He has struck out once, and he's gotten 2 hits across 6 at-bats. So, yeah, he's looked fine to me, but, again, small sample size. It's kind of it's just picking a needle out of a haystack in a lot of ways. But not a bad question, but, again, look fine. William says, I say we start Wright and Muller in the 4 and 5 spots. I wouldn't mind that, but they gotta take that spot from Huascar Ynoa and Tucker Davidson. I mean, Tucker Davidson, keep in mind, William, Tucker Davidson pitched in the World Series last year. I'm not saying they're picking favorites, but he did start a World Series game, whether or not he did well or not. RLP says Blake, John L. says Riley seems to be an awesome late bloomer. John, are we talking about the same Austin Riley? Because early on, I thought, a lot of people thought he bloomed early and just petered out real early, and now he's come back. I think he's just found his groove, right? Because early on, he came in and he hit 18 homers in a month. He was putting Babe Ruth numbers up, and now I think he's just found what type of hitter he needs to be. By the way, this is his first homer ever But I think he's found what hitter he needs to be, the type of hitter he needs to be. He's become a more complete hitter, and he's not trying to hit everything out. He's not, he's staying on the slider. I think he's just grown a bit to major league pitching. I think he's always had the talent. He just had to, figure out who he was going to be. But when it comes to Riley, I mean, it's no secret that I am a big Riley fan. I like the way he plays and all that good stuff. But at the same time, Riley has been good for the past 2 seasons now. He's just getting better every year. I would say, yeah, he's a great late bloomer, but don't forget how good he was early on as well. Machete Moonlight, that's a name. I like that name. Um, do we need to block Garrett's Knowles? Is he doing something crazy? Then I mean, I can block him. Got it. No problem. If that's what everybody wants, I'll be glad to do it. By the way, if if somebody's acting up in the chat, feel free to get rid of them. That's for the moderators. I have no patience with that. So if it's getting to the point where it's bad, I don't know how you did that because I've got so many blocked words on this chat. Let's see. Brett Walters, you think the Braves signed Swanson to an extension? If not, who replaces him? I think they do because I think if this year shows us anything, it's that Dansby probably saw straight up that if Freddie didn't get big money, he's not going to get big money. So he's probably going to make that decision hopefully prior to the end of the year. I really don't want to get to a point where he hits free agency. Now, I think the same situation goes for Dansby. If he wants to be a Brave, he'll be a Brave. He's suitable at shortstop. I think if it was this year, I think if it had been this past year, you might have seen the Braves go to free agency and test out the Trevor Story waters, maybe test out the Carlos Correa. Those rumors are out there. I don't think that's got any ground to it. I might be wrong, but I just don't see that. I think Trevor Story would have been more like what the Braves would have done. But I think Dansby's the guy. I mean, we don't have to pay big money for Dansby, hopefully, next year. I mean, he's good, but he's not the best. And I mean that with all due respect. I mean, he is a suitable shortstop. He's good for the Braves. He's a hometown kid. It just makes sense that he'd want to stay here. But then again, who knows, right? I mean, if Freddie Freeman showed us anything, it's that anything can happen. So, Brett, I wish I could give you an answer. I think the Braves re-signed Swanson if I had to put money on it right now. But then again, I would have told you the same thing when it came to Freddie. But appreciate the question, though. Tyler Hunter, if Huascar Noah plays similar to last year, our starting rotation is scary, even more so when Soroka returns. Yeah, Huascar Noah, last year, Huascar Noah was really good early on. He was probably our most consistent pitcher, if I'm just straight up with you. He was really good. And then he broke his hand and he wasn't quite the same after that. But this year's going to be the testing ground for him, coming back from that because, you come back last year, you get injured and you come back and then you're immediately expected to perform again. And I don't think that's fair. So this is the time where I want to see Huascar Noah prove himself. And that's why he's on that list, right? That's why he's in the competition list. I need to see him do what he did last year again. And I think he's going to be given that opportunity, but he's going to be given that opportunity alongside Kyle Wright, Kyle Muller, Tucker Davidson, Huascar Noah. He is a guy who can be good at any given time. The problem is, so can a lot of these other guys. So we'll see. I wouldn't mind him getting that spot. I like Huascar Noah. He's got a better bat than a lot of our bench players do at times. So we'll see. But I think Huascar Noah, if he, again, plays similar to how he did last year at the start of last year, the rotation could very well be more full than we think it is. Because right now the Braves are hinting at a 6-man rotation. And if that's the case, that's great. But, they're going to be counting on the bullpen a lot too because of how good our bullpen is. But I want you to think about this for a second. And I just sort of made myself think about this. But I think it's a good thing of note. Last year, we had virtually the same bullpen at the beginning of the year that we did the last part of the year, right? But those two bullpens were very different. And I think, there's a very good explanation as to why. The starting rotation at the beginning of last year was limited as well, right? Huascar Noah, again, one of our most consistent pitchers, probably the most consistent. Max Fried, not doing so well at the start of last year. He came around, but he wasn't doing that well. Charlie Morton didn't start off that great. Ian Anderson was okay, but we didn't have what we had later on, right? And I'm not saying that, those guys, Drew Smiley, another one of those guys that just didn't quite do what we thought he was going to do early on. But once they got into their groove and they didn't make the bullpen cover, 5, 6 innings a game, they got to rest more, right? And that's important. And I question, as of right now, what's going to happen early on when you got guys, a 3-man rotation, in a sense. As of right now, what's going to happen if the other guys can't cover those innings? That's why I think we're going to have a 6-man rotation, to have basically a long reliever. And whoever that becomes, it's fine. But these guys, they got to cover those innings. Otherwise, the bullpen, no matter how good the bullpen is, which make no mistake, the bullpen's going to be very, very good. But no matter how good it is, it's still got to be supported by a starting rotation. I mean, look at this pen. This pen's going to be great. But even with this, Luke Jackson can't cover 3 innings a night. Tyler Matzik can't cover 2 innings every night. You got to give him some time off. You got to give him, the ability to rest, and you got to give Brian Snitker the ability to rest you as well. So we'll see what happens. But the biggest question mark, and I think we all know this as of right now, but the biggest question mark for the Braves in spring training is who's going to be the starting rotation outside of the big 3, right? We're wondering that. And I'm wondering that. I would like to know. I know we got a super chat, so I'm going to go ahead and skip on down to that. It's from Wade Lamb. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Will the Braves re-sign Duvall? He's underrated. Duvall, I don't know if he... Yeah, so the Braves... I don't know if he signed an arbitration deal. I'm pretty sure he didn't. But the Braves are going to bring him back. Make no mistake about it. It's official, by the way. I'm not just telling you that as an opinion. It's going to happen. Duvall has basically... all that's going to happen, they didn't re-sign through arbitration, didn't meet the deadline or whatever. That just means he's going to go to an arbiter and they're going to set his price. So we're probably going to pay him a little bit more, but he is coming back. They've already made that official. He is coming back. That deal's done. Nothing to worry about there. Good question. Glad you asked it, but yeah, nothing to worry about there. And thanks for the super chat, by the way. By the way, guys, if you want your question answered immediately, the only way to do it is through a super chat. That's the only way I can give any kind of priority. So I appreciate that, Wade, and appreciate the rest of you guys tuning in as well. One more time, a lot of you guys just tuned in. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that good stuff, as we'll be covering the Braves throughout the entire season. So thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the show. So let's pick it back up with... John L. says, he's talking about Austin Riley again. He says that, in terms of Austin Riley being a late bloomer, it's in high expectations. He didn't do so well. Came back and has been rolling. Every year he's gotten better. There's a video I did, I think last year, where I said, basically Austin Riley's development. And it was early on in the year because I noticed before, he started getting credit. I mean, we're talking a month or 2 into the season maybe. And I noticed that the changes he made in his swing, right? He was staying on the slider. It might have been a foul ball, but the approach was different. And I noticed that. I did that video. You ought to go check it out. I think you'll like it. It's somewhere. I wish I could drop a link or something, but it's somewhere on the channel. You know what? I'm going to go find that, actually, and I'll just drop it in there for you to go watch later. But it is a good video because I noticed Austin Riley, early on last year and his approach changing. Austin Riley, I think, works a lot throughout the offseason. I don't think he'll tell you that, but I genuinely think he does. I know he's worked with Pujols before. Obviously, he's worked with Chipper Jones as well. But I definitely think Austin Riley is a guy that tries to improve throughout the offseason, and I see that. By the way, this video is really popular, and it's called The Success of Austin Riley. I just found it. I'm about to drop the link for you. But yeah, I think you ought to go watch it because I went through, that was a live look at what I thought Austin Riley was doing and how I thought he was improving. So make sure to check that out, John, and I do appreciate your comment. Max Cruz says, I've been watching these streams at night in my bed. You've been putting me to sleep lately. Thanks for doing them. I'm putting you to sleep? Max, you do not get on my stream and tell people that I'm putting you to sleep. Do not do that. Shameful. Let's see. I'm going to skip down. I skipped down too far. RLP. Sorry. Apparently we had some drama in the chat. All right, Corey Carter, Byron Buxton, Baxley, Georgia native. That means Alex Anthopoulos is eyeballing it. Make no mistake. I don't think that's going to happen, though. UGA football highlight film says he's a big fan of Enoa. UGA football highlight films. That's interesting. I might have to check that out later. Big fan of Enoa. Yeah, I think I am too. I mean, last year, he kind of came out of nowhere and not only performed on the mound, but performed in the batter's box. I think we covered that. I think I did like a not a live reaction, but like a day later reaction to the grand slam that he hit. But I mean, yeah, he was killing it last year, and it would be great to see him, kind of find that magic again. But we'll see. Got a super chat, so I'm gonna skip down. Joseph Alvarez, that's my buddy. He said he must give props to RGM because he didn't stay still. He made a deal at the right moment. We could have also lost Olsen. Yeah, Double A has, his own set of priorities, right? I think we're all aware of that now. He's got to have the back of the Braves. The Braves have to have, their own back in a lot of ways. And when it comes to Freddie Freeman, because that's always going to be coming up here in these streams, at least for the next few months. I mean, when it comes to Freddie, I'm not mad at Freddie. I'm not mad at Freddie. I think he had his own, priorities, and I understand that. But Alex Anthopoulos had his own too. And, the dramas that's going on when it comes to that is what it is. But credit to Alex Anthopoulos. I mean, to be able to replace a former MVP like he did in what could be the next MVP in Matt Olson, I mean, it was phenomenal. Just an absolutely phenomenal, move there. And I can't say that enough. And you guys know, William, I see you super chatted. I'll get to you in a second. But if you followed me for a long time, you know how much I've credited Alex Anthopoulos on this channel for a long time. I like every move he does. I liked when he didn't get rid of prospects, and a lot of other guys were like, well, what are the Braves doing? Why don't they go after so-and-so? Why don't they pay Donaldson? Why don't they, X, Y, and Z? You remember all these little instances. And if you followed me for a long time, you know that I've defended him along those, every decision made. There's only been one decision that I didn't understand by Alex Anthopoulos, and I later was proven incorrect, and it was the Adam Duvall not picking up Adam Duvall at the beginning of last year. Now, obviously, I think he would have liked to have picked Adam Duvall up, but because of COVID budget cuts, he couldn't. Once I found that out, all was forgiven. But that was the one thing that I'm like, Alex, what are you doing? But other than that, yeah, I mean, Alex Anthopoulos has been great, and every move he makes sense. But we'll see. With 2 extra spots in the first month, does Spencer Strider make the bullpen? That's from William. William, I wouldn't be surprised. And I'll leave it there because, again, it's such a short spring training. They may give him a shot, but I think he's also one of those guys that they may want to just sit on for a while and let him, marinate in the minor leagues. Let him develop his skills in the minor leagues further. Maybe not. I mean, if he can make an impact now, I don't see why we couldn't bring him up. He's obviously got the name value to make sense, but there's no guarantee there, right? I mean, there truly isn't. But even then, it's a question of, do we want to bring him up now and maybe have to use an option later, or do we just want to let him sit there and make sure he's major league ready? That's what I think the debate's going to be. But yeah, I don't see if he's performing. I don't think there's a problem with it. He's obviously done pretty well now. I think the Braves, a lot of these prospects had like 13 innings scoreless throughout the past couple of weeks, and that's great. But I don't know that it's enough to convince them to put him in the pen, because I also think Spencer Strider's goal, when it comes to the Braves, and the Braves' goal with Spencer Strider is for him to be a starter. So we'll see. But as of right now, I would say yeah, it's a possibility. I didn't put him in this. In this list, and I don't even think I might have put him. Did I put him in the bullpen? Yeah. So there you go, right there, the bullpen list, the competing list. I put him in there because I think he is competing. I just think he's competing alongside a lot of other guys that have more experience than him. I think everybody in that list has more experience than him. Even Jose De La Cruz has more experience. So I think his competition is a little stacked in comparison to where he's at or to where he's been. But even then, I mean, I think he's got the raw talent, and I think if he can make an immediate impact on a team where, we need pitching right now, yeah, I don't see why not. I think that's a good question. I think it's a fair point. Thanks for that, by the way. That's from William Fulgham, a big supporter of mine, has been for a long time. Appreciate that, by the way, really do. All right, we're going to kick back up with Pete Draper. What about Phil Gosselin as a potential bench bat? Yeah, we talked about him the other day. We talked about him the other day, Pete, when we did that Double A Big Week video. I believe we did. Yeah, right here. So Phil Gosselin, 261 average, 314 on base, 362 slugs, 7 homers. I didn't put him in the list, I don't think, because there's just so many guys. And I mean, it's definitely a possibility. He may do it. To be honest with you, I kind of skipped over him now that you say it. But I definitely think that he's one of those guys that's competing. He's one of those guys that could very well make it. The thing about it, though, and the reason I didn't include him, just to tell you, the reason I didn't include him is because there's so many guys competing for bench spots, right? And I don't know that the need is with the bench. If this was National League rules, I would say yeah, completely sure, for sure. But as of right now, the idea of a bench bat is just not there. I mean, it's just not. I mean, sure, you can have him for depth. You can have him for utility role. But I just don't know that it's there. He very well might be leading the charge in that case. It's just so hard to know under, as of right now, it's just really hard to know where the Braves stand on a lot of these guys because, it's such a small sample size. And that's going to be a broken record tonight. But spring training is right now, in this case, every year it's a small sample size. But this one is just such a jump start. It's such a small just time frame to really, let all these guys, for one, get chances while also developing them. And whether or not that's the young guys, whether or not it's the guy like Phil Gosselin, it's just really hard to pick apart your roster and make sure that you're covered. So we'll see. But good question. Very good question and a fair point. I'll definitely give you that. It's a fair point. John L. says he is from Minnesota. I got some friends up there. He's raised up as a Twins fan, moved to Georgia in 2010. He's been rooting for the Braves since 2013. Man, John, I mean no offense when I say this. You picked 2013 to start rooting for the Braves. Don't get me wrong, this year was great. This past year was great, but 2013 through 2016, man, you picked quite the time to root for the Braves, but I respect it. I really do. I truly respect it. Braden wants to know, who do you think will be the opening day starter? I mean, it's either going to be Fried or Morton. I would probably lean Fried just because, I mean, Morton's coming back off the broke leg, and Fried is without a doubt, Fried is without a doubt the leader, I think, at this point. I mean, he's the guy that's going to carry us into the future. But I don't know for sure who was the opening day starter last year. I should probably know that, but I don't. I assume it was Morton. But I will definitely find out. Does anybody know who the opening day was last year? I think it was Morton, but it might have been Fried. It's either going to be one of those two guys, but I'm leaning Fried. Nicholas Locklear says, who do you like hitting first before Ronald comes back? I'm going Eddie Rosario. And to be honest with you, I think he might stay there. And that's not exactly a popular opinion. It's not exactly something that I think for sure. But, I mean, he is I've said it before, that the word I like to use with this is he is a quintessential leadoff hitter. I mean, he is the guy that, it makes sense in all of the baseball knowledge I have, a guy that gets on base, a guy that can steal bases. Yeah, it was Max Fried. Thank you. Oh, no, somebody says it was Morton. See, I'm not the only one. I don't remember. So I'm not too crazy. But Eddie Rosario is definitely the guy that, from all baseball sense, would be, the guy that you'd put in leadoff, even over Ronald Acuna. In baseball sense, you put Ronald Acuna in the 3-hole, right? But Ronald Acuna loves hitting first. So it's hard to say what happens after Acuna gets back. But even then, personally, I think, Eddie Rosario takes that spot until he gets back. After that, we'll see. But I definitely think that's the case. If I'm building a lineup, that's what I go with. Tyler Hunter, good name, by the way. Do you think Double A and Snitker are the best GM-manager tandem in baseball? I mean, they won the World Series, didn't they? So, yeah. But I think their relationship definitely speaks for itself. I think, the ability of frankly, Alex Anthopoulos letting Brian Snitker run his team is a big deal. I mean, we've heard all the stories about Frank Wren, back in the day with Bobby Cox and all the issues that they had. But even then, like, I don't know, there's a lot behind the scenes that we probably don't know, never will know. But I definitely think that those guys work well together. I don't know if they're the best in baseball because, the results of last year were great and they got a lot of attention, but you never know what's going on a team that's, ranked 26th in all of baseball, right? Like, you just never know. They might be on a rebuild. I think of the Tigers. The Tigers are on a rebuild. I don't know what their GM manager relationship is like, but it's hard to tell. But I definitely think they're in the top 5 for sure. I mean, if I had to guess, but I mean, they're the guys that I follow. They're the manager and the GM that I follow. So yeah, I would say so. But it's I don't want to sound biased when I say yes on that, but I would say they're definitely in the top category there. Frank Carone, I am buying my Cincinnati Reds World Series tickets. Just kidding. Yeah, pray for those Cincinnati fans, guys. They're having it rough right now. Machete Moonlight, who's going to be the main utility guy this year? Is it going to be Arcia? It's hard to say. I mean, we just talked about Phil Gosselin. We got Brock Holt now. You got, Guillermo Heredia. Alex Dickerson. I mean, there's a lot of guys that we're not familiar with. And to be honest with you, there are a lot of guys that could perform late in the postseason that become, postseason heroes. I mean, right? Like, who would have thought Jorge Soler would be the World Series MVP last year? Because for a while, I think he was utility when he first came over, and then he was hitting so well that, it just is what it is. Jess, I'm sorry, I disagree, and I'm going to leave it at that. I disagree highly on that. Chewy's Firewood says, oh, thanks, Tyler, no problem. I don't know what you're thinking before, but thank you. Braden Horn, who do you think will be the opening day starter? Again, I'm going Fried. Let's see, I'm going to skip down a little bit. John L., I'm not predicting a World Series repeat, but this team didn't regress, hoping for the best. Should be a great season. Yeah, so here's what I'm going to say. When it comes to the idea of repeating, right? I mean, I would love if the Braves somehow were able to repeat. And with their bullpen, with their team, they very well could. I think the question isn't whether or not they'll repeat, and it's whether or not they'll compete for the next few years. And I think that's what they're built to do, right? Because you don't just win a World Series every year. You have to make it to a postseason. And the more years you can make it to a postseason, the more years you're set up for success. And with this bullpen, with this team, I really think the chances are high, not to mention all the returns we're going to have. And Ronald Acuna, and Mike Soroka, and Marcell Ozuna. I mean, those guys are going to make an impact without a doubt. But I don't blame you for not predicting a World Series repeat, but I wouldn't completely throw out the idea that it could happen. I think that's where I'm at on that. But thanks for the comment. RLP. Sorry, skip down for me. RLP says, oh, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, guys, by the way, if you want your chats read off the bat, the only way to do that is to put a super chat in. I got a complete separate chat pulled up where I can keep up with super chats, but that is the only way for me to read your comment, immediately. Other than that, you might be waiting a while. Also, by the way, if you guys could like the video, see a lot of you guys are tuning in, and would really appreciate you guys liking the video to help me get it out to a broader audience. Don't know how long I'm going tonight. Probably not going as long as usual, but we'll be here as long as I can. So we'll see. We'll see. A lot of you guys are asking who's going to be the opening day starter. It's definitely going to be Fried. Corey Carter. Tyler, are you more of a fan of the 6-man rotation or the extra arm in the bullpen? Corey, I'll be honest with you, I think I'm more of a fan of the 6-man. Not in general. Like in terms of like in general how I view baseball, I think it should be in general 5 starters. But for the Braves specifically, like you have so many guys again that are competing, for the starting rotation, and why not use them? Why not let them cover some innings and not throw your bullpen? If you bring in an extra arm, which you very well could, and to be honest with you, if one of these guys doesn't pan out to be a starter, I'm looking at you, Kyle Wright. If one of those guys doesn't pan out to be a starter, which I think they all have the potential to, But if they don't, guess where they're going to be at? They're going to be in the pen. And that's why I think all these guys are definite locks for the roster. I just don't know that they're locks for starters. That's where I'm at with it. But thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Let's see. Pete Draper, you're going to get me on a soapbox. Does Fred McGriff belong in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you what, I should do a video on this, to tell you the truth, because I'm highly considering doing a video on Andrew Jones. I've done one before, but I'm just going to basically highlight everything that they've done and highlight everything they've done with the Braves specifically. I think the Braves, and not necessarily for Fred McGriff, because I think he only had like 4 years with the Braves, but for Andrew Jones, I think, the Braves should retire his number. I've said that, multiple times. I think that is, necessity. They made a really big deal about Christian Pache wearing number 25. Make a big deal about 25 being up on that wall. And I feel very strongly about that. In terms of Fred McGriff, yeah, he belongs in a Hall of Fame. I don't know that his number needs to be retired for the Braves. But he spent so much time on different teams, throughout his career that a lot of, he didn't get a lot of attention from the baseball writers. Look, guys, if it was my Hall of Fame, there's a lot of guys that would be in there. Pete Rose being number 1 on that list. But if it was my Hall of Fame, Fred McGriff's in there. 30 homers every year during the steroid era, never tested positive, never was even suspect. The guy belongs. And I've said this before too, if you're not going to reward the steroid users, you need to reward the guys that played the game the right way and led in their category. If you eliminate the steroid users, right? If you take Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Gary Sheffield, if you take all those guys out of the equation, who led the league? Fred McGriff every year, 30 homers. And that's at a time where 30 homers looked good. And, when you got steroid users coming right behind you that make those numbers not look so great, it doesn't help your chances on the Hall of Fame. But yeah, baseball writers missed that one. They missed that one bad. And I think they even did a segment. They even did a segment on MLB tonight with all the brainiacs on MLB Network about why Fred McGriff belongs. And it was on his last year on the ballot, and I remember it vividly. And I thought that prior to it, and they went on to add to my belief. So yeah, definitely. No problem, John. Grand Slams. Grand Slam says Dodgers and Braves 2022 NLCS. Book it. I think so too. I definitely think the Giants took a hit. I don't think they're going to do what they did last year. But I would definitely agree. Mantic Savage, what do you think the Braves starting pitching is going to look like in 2022? Manic, I don't know if you just tuned in, but you missed that. But real quick, I'll go through it. The starters, this is what I think we're looking at right now. Guaranteed, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson. Competing, Kyle Wright, Kyle Muller, Tucker Davidson, and Huascar Ynoa. In terms of the bullpen, I think your locks are on the left. You got Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, Tyler Manzik, A.J. Minter, Luke Jackson, Colin McHugh, and Sean Newcomb. A lot of people have probably raised eyebrows when it comes to Sean Newcomb, but I definitely think he is a lock on opening day. Can't say anything past that, but I think there's a lot of guys that are going to be in your pen on the right, too. Darren O'Day specifically. Spencer Strider could very well wind up there. Tyler Thornburg could very well wind up there. Jacob Webb, he's a guy that was in the pen last year. Dylan Lee spent some time in the pen last year. Brad Brock is fighting his way back, to being of relevance. Jose De La Cruz, a guy that we've seen in the pen before as well. So we'll see. But that's where we're at in terms of pitching right now. But I will gonna have to move on because we do have a super chat. That's from Robert Gall. Appreciate it, man. I feel like this is the year Kyle Wright brings it. Let's go Braves. I like Kyle Wright. I want to believe that. I just need to see it. A lot of you guys pick on me. If you followed me for a long time, you know that during COVID, I flew out to Texas. I went and watched the NLCS in Texas with some friends of mine. And there's a vlog on the channel. I went and rewatched it the other night because it's funny. Because we were so excited about going to Texas and seeing the new Texas Rangers Stadium and, just being able to just see everything. And of course, watch the NLCS as well. Hopefully watch the Braves, beat the Dodgers. Did not go our way. That was the game that Kyle Wright pitched and got shelled. So ever since then, there's been a bit of hesitance with Kyle Wright. I think not with me necessarily, but with a lot of Braves fans. Because they don't want, to get to another postseason potentially, and Kyle Wright be the starting pitcher and then happen again. You got to take into account Tucker Davidson got shelled too this past year. These guys are young. Tom Glavine got shelled early in his career in the postseason. So at the end of the day, that's not an indication of what's going to happen in the future, right? But I definitely think there's reason to feel that way. But I'm looking forward to see what Kyle Wright does. I've heard a lot about him throughout the offseason. I'm interested to see what he does as well. So thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the comment. And I really do appreciate it. Tyler Mahle starting for the Reds on opening day. Cool. Don't know where that came from. Cool. Appreciate it. Grand Slam says, I agree. Through 3 superstars under 200 million. Very well done. Yeah, the Grand Slam, there's been a lot of talk about the payroll. There's been a lot of talk about payroll across Major League Baseball. Of course, Jock Peterson put his opinions out there when it comes to the Orioles and the Pirates, and I think the Mariners maybe. I can't remember exactly, but they all have like $30 million total in salary this year in payroll. So there's been a lot of talk about payroll, and I think the Braves really ride that line of not being stupid with their money. Look at the Dodgers, right? The Dodgers aren't stupid with their money. They go get good players, but they spend so much money. The Yankees too. They just spend so much money. And the Braves are able to win without doing that. And that allows you to, for one, not spend your entire bank account on 1 year when you're the Braves, because the Braves don't have Dodger money. They just don't. So I think it offers the Braves, the opportunity, to perform without doing that. But also it provides Braves the opportunity to, go get something at the deadline like we did last year, or go get something in free agency if need be. But that's how I feel about it. Yeah, it was very well done by Alex Anthopoulos. Credit to him. Mab, Tyler, did you know the Braves had a record for 5 players reject? Oh, that's a record now. Pre-arbitration offers. Duvall, Swanson, Fried, Riley, and Jackson all turned down Braves offers. A few years ago, the entire league had 0 bad offers from Braves, ? I think the fact that we won a World Series probably added to that. And, I don't know if it was a bad offer, but I doubt that it's going to be as good as they get in arbitration. And I think they know that. And, Riley, you look at a guy like Riley, and Swanson probably as well. Riley, I think, made $500,000 last year, and he had an MVP level year. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily, a bad thing. I just think that's where the game's going. I think that's where baseball is. It's become a money game. And, with guys like that who don't have that many years into their career and are performing to the level that, frankly, Duvall, Swanson, and Fried and Riley all performed at last year, Jackson as well. They improved dramatically. So I think they know that this might be, and they got to protect themselves. And I don't blame them. We're not talking about a $200 million contract here. We're talking about, a couple of million. And I think that's a big difference there. And when you look at Fried specifically, Fried is leading the charge in the starting rotation. He is, in essence, the face of the Braves starting rotation, and he's not the only one. Of course, there's Charlie Morton and Ian Anderson, but now's his time to get paid. And I don't blame him. Mantic Savage, do you think the Braves have a good starting rotation going into 2022? That is a hard question to answer, Manic, to tell you the truth, because I think they're 3. I think those top 3 right there, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Ian Anderson, I think they're all very good. I think we know how good they are, right? But beyond that, there's question marks. And they're not, terrible question marks. They're not like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do question marks like we've had before, but they are questions. What is Huascar Ynoa going to do this year? Is he going to be the Huascar Ynoa we saw at the beginning of last year, or is he going to be the Huascar Ynoa we saw at the end of the year? Is Tucker Davidson, has he developed through the offseason, right? Has he improved his ability to go longer into games? Has Kyle Muller improved his ability to go longer into games? Have they developed to be major league ready? Has Kyle Wright finally come around, and is he the guy that is going to be our number 4 starter, right? That's the question. So to answer your question, do I think that the Braves have a good starting rotation? I think they have good starting rotation possibilities, and I think that's the best way to put it. They have a good front end, without question, and Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Ian Anderson, but beyond that, they have a lot of questions, and I'm excited to see those questions answered one way or another. Hopefully it works out for the Braves. Hopefully it works out, for those guys. But that's the question, right? So we'll see. But again, it's hard to answer. Mab. Oh, sorry, I already read your question. William Fulgham says Gonzaga just lost. Uh, is that's interesting? March Madness, guys, can't get enough of it. I was oh, forget it. I was gonna show you something, but never mind. I was at March Madness the other day. It's a fun thing to go do, fun thing to cover, and it's obviously an interesting part of the year for basketball and for all that. I think at this point, and this is going to make a lot of people upset, but I think at this point, I'm kind of pulling for Duke. It's Coach K's last year. I got to watch his 1200th win the other day from courtside. So it's hard for me not to root for him at this point. We were there covering Auburn, but obviously Auburn lost in round two. So I think at this point I'm pulling for Duke. Again, because I saw, I got to watch their round 1 and 2. So we'll see. Michigan's lost as well. Wow, that's a big one. So yeah, we'll see. But I think at this point I'm pulling for Duke. I don't know that they're gonna win, but it would be cool if they did for me personally. How is Soroka's health? That is from Mark Narmore. I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, I'm so sorry. 2006 through 2009 were very dark times for the Braves. Yeah, I think 2005 was Andrews he didn't win the MVP, but Pujols did, and I think he was second in voting. So he had a good year, but yeah, 2006 through 2009, not very memorable. Well, no. Chipper Jones did win a batting title in 2008, so it's not all bad, but yeah, for sure. Mab. Hey, Tyler, what do you think about Matt Olson's swing/batting stance? It doesn't look like he will make nearly as much contact as Freeman. It looks like all or nothing for him. That's bad when we need a single. Sure, but is Olson brought in to give you a single, or is he brought in to be a power guy? I think that's the questions you have to ask, right? So here's the stats. I can just pull it up and show you. I wish I had the graphic ready with him and Freeman, but I don't. But if you're asking me how I feel about it, 271 average isn't bad. 371 on base certainly isn't bad. 540 slug, not bad. And those 39 homers look really good. So I think you're just going to have to take him for who he is. In terms of what his swing looks like, it's his swing. That's what we went and got. I definitely think, it could, as he gets older, may diminish. But I think right now, he's going to come in and put these numbers up. I really do. But I don't know that his swing is necessarily something that we should worry about. I get what you're saying. His swing is definitely different. And look, Freddie's average is definitely better, without question, right? On base, probably better as well. But at the end of the day, what do you bring Olson in for? I think you bring Olson in basically to be surrounded by guys like Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, Ozzie Albies, Travis d'Arnaud, Manny Pena now, Ronald Acuna, and Eddie Rosario, guys like that who they're all different, right? I mean, we're not sitting here worried about Ozuna's stance, and we all know about his consistency, or Duvall, who we're looking at this guy, questioning whether or not he can get a single. But you look at Duvall's right at 200, right? And it's not that he's bad. I mean, he led in homers, I think, last year for a while. It's not that it's bad. It's every one of these guys is different, and until we understand that, we're not gonna appreciate it completely. Russ edits. Do you think the Braves are better with Olson, or do you think we should have signed Freddie? I think all intentions were to sign Freddie, without a doubt, and I think we all are aware of that at this point. But it just didn't work out, and I think Olson was the best replacement. I don't know if they're better or not. We're going to have to see this year. But, at the end of the day, I think it was what was best for the Braves at the time. And at the end of the day, guys, I mean, Olson's his own player, right? We can sit here and we can talk about, Freddie versus Olson. But at the end of the day, Freddie, again, his own player, Olson, his own player. And you gotta turn the page, like Mark Narmore says right there. You gotta turn the page, and I'm right there with it. So let me see. Sorry guys, I'm behind. I know I'm behind, but I appreciate all you guys tuning in. I'm probably gonna skip a little bit. I'm only gonna be here till about 10:15 or 10:30 tonight, and then I'm getting off. To be honest with you, I left my computer charger at work, and that's what's helping me run this whole operation. And we're running low on battery, but I'm going to go as long as I can. But I will have to wrap it up early tonight. So if you have a super chat, get it in. If you have a question, get it in. I'm going to try to answer as many as I can, but I'm probably going to do it fairly quickly. So if you want an in-depth answer, super chats are the way to go for right now. Appreciate it, though. Thanks for tuning in as well. All right. All right. So Mark Narmore, Olsen doesn't have the emergency contact swing like Freddie. He's a different hitter. Completely agree. Smith happens. Nice try. I know it's a small sample size, but he's hitting 333 in spring training without a home run. Now, do I think he'll be a 300 season? I'm sorry. Do I think he will be a 300 hitter for a season? No, but I also don't think we need him to. For sure. That's how I feel, right? Like, I don't think we need a 300. I think, just put up numbers, whatever those numbers are. Be your own player. Corey Carter, sorry. Eva Kate Murphy, who will be the main pitchers and who is the first baseman? Charlie Morton, Max Fried, Ian Anderson's going to be your main pitchers, I guess, your starting pitchers. Eva, and then your first baseman's Matt Olson. Mab Mab, hey Tyler, why is Shoemaker such a well-known and overly ranked Braves prospect? Every time I've seen him, he looks awful. He looks like a below-average minor leaguer. Why does anyone even know his name? He's a prospect. I think it's hard to say. Again, we don't have eyes on these guys all the time, but he is a Braves prospect. He is a highly ranked prospect. And if Swanson is to not re-sign next year, he will be next in line in theory unless we go to the free agency route. So, I get why people are I definitely get why people talk about him. I just don't know. I don't know either. We won't know for some time. But, they have a lot of hopes for him, probably for his defensive ability. I think you're probably overlooking that. He's probably great defensively. But at the plate, yeah, he's definitely struggled. His average is down. His home run numbers aren't there. His power numbers aren't there, so I have questions with that myself. But again, these guys are also young, so it's hard to tell. John L., we appreciate that super chat, but it doesn't have a question attached, unfortunately. I'd love to answer something for you if you had one, though. I'll try to keep an eye on it and see. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Michael Robinson, Braves have a better chance than last year to win. I think on paper, yes. But I also think that last year's team was so organic that it built itself, so it's hard to tell. Corey Carter, how terribly great would it be if Freddie was in the box in Game 7 of NLCS with a chance to win or lose the season? It would be awful. I don't want that to happen. Do not wish that on me. I don't need that. But appreciate the comment though. Mark Narmore, will Michael Harris make the roster? Looks good swinging the bat. No, he's 2 years away. I think. If I'm honest with you, I think he's 2 years away. I think that's a big reason why you saw Eddie Rosario get 2 years. Probably not the only reason, but I think there's just nowhere for him. At least in my opinion. You got Rosario, again, 2 years, $18 million, and you're not. Michael Harris is still in the minors, and he's an exciting player, but I don't think he's anywhere near Rosario as of right now, because there is a huge difference in major league pitching and minor league pitching. Michael Harris seems to be great. I think he will be great, but we'll see. All right, thank you for that, though. Joe Mixon, the talent is there on all them guys, but two of those guys need to step up. For sure, don't deny that at all. So I definitely think we're going to have to see who steps up as a starter. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Michael, you're talking to somebody else. Carly Rude, imagine if the Braves and Bulldogs both repeated. Isn't it great that they have that opportunity? Sure, but I'm not a Bulldog guy. I'm a Braves guy. And to be honest with you, I like football, I do, but baseball is my core love. But no, I am a Seminoles fan. If I have to choose one, unfortunately, right now I am a Seminoles fan. Jake Hobby, Murphy should be in the Hall of Fame. Do not doubt that whatsoever. I completely agree with you. For sure. And I think a lot of people in the chat probably would as well. Corey says Dansby is much more than just his stats. He has intangibles such as the clutch gene, and he is a leader. I feel like he is part of the heart and soul of the team. Completely agree, which is a big reason why I think he'll be back. Joe Mixon, Andrews should be retired for being an ambassador for Curacao and leading the charge of all the talent that has come through from over there in the past 25 years. Yeah, but he also has got 434 home runs, 10 gold gloves, The dude was good. He was great, and he was great for the Braves. Retire the man's number. I will stand by that. That video is coming out at some point in the next couple of weeks. Mark Narmore, McGriff, and Jones should both be in the Hall of Fame. Completely agree. Corey Carter, Michael Robinson, I think the Dodgers have as good a chance or better to make it further than we do. I agree with that. I actually really do agree with that. I don't think, a lot of people got mad because there's been a lot of talk about the Dodgers having the best lineup in all of baseball. I think that's a very, I don't think you can really say that, but on paper they do. I just don't know how well they'll compete against the Braves in a 7-game series. That's how I feel about it. I definitely think the Braves have a lot more talent than they're being given credit for. Map, Tyler, if you do a video on Andrew, make sure to talk about his Fangraphs defensive rating and defensive runs saved. Both of those stats say Andrew is the best center fielder of all time, and Mays isn't even close. Yeah, I've done a video on Andrew before, and I used that stat. Fielding percentage, too, which, fielding percentage is what it is. But yeah, I've definitely checked into that, and there's definitely some truth to it. There's not as fluid of stats in terms of fielding as there is for hitting. So it's unfortunate, but I mean the dude won 10 Gold Gloves at one of the hardest fielding positions there is in baseball, and they were all consecutive. So it was literally a decade where nobody in the National League was better than him in center field. I don't know what else it takes. Corey Carter, we see that. Oh, okay, you're talking to somebody. Pete Draper, Tyler, I'm a huge Crime Dog fan, so am I. So I appreciate you and your take on his Hall of Fame candidacy. Yeah, completely. Fred McGriff, I'm sorry. There wasn't a more consistent player at first base for that time frame. There just wasn't, especially if you eliminate steroids. I mean, the next best, I mean, the guy that followed him that I would probably say is better is definitely Frank Thomas. I definitely think Frank Thomas had a more powerful career in the sense of like he had more homers, he had all that. But Fred McGriff was consistent year in, year out, and I'll defend that till the end of time. Smith says, I was shocked to see how much the Rangers spent this offseason. I think the Rangers know something we don't, because I agree with that as well. But as Corey Carter says below, the Rangers are crazy. Remember that they paid A-Rod, and then they didn't win anything with him. I'll add that. Who would you take as your overall pick in this year's MLB draft? Drew Jones or Elijah Green? That's a good question. I've seen so much more on Drew Jones. I'd probably just choose Drew Jones. But I mean Elijah Green, I'm sure is just as good. I don't think you can go wrong in that scenario. But with the genetics and if I'm the Braves, I'd definitely pick Drew Jones. But even with that, it's hard to say. Robert Gall, the Angels have always had some egregious contracts. Rendon, $36 million a year for another 6 years, and what has he done with it? And the Angels, I'm not going to say they're a terrible organization, but they've made some crap decisions over the past few years. I mean, don't get me wrong, you need to pay Trout. Trout's your guy, I get that. But, the Pujols deal, didn't age well. Shohei Ohtani, good move. Justin Upton, decent. But they just overpay on so many things, and they don't win. I mean, they have the pieces. I mean, think about this. I once watched the Angels take on the Rays in Tampa, okay? In BP, I watched Josh Hamilton hit a ball that hit the catwalk of the roof. I watched Mike Trout hit a ball that hit the back wall of Tropicana Field at the highest point. I watched Pujols hit missiles, okay? They had all these pieces. They didn't even win the division, okay? And they have all of those pieces. This isn't Pujols 3 years ago. This is Pujols 6-7 years ago, okay? And that's like mid-contract. And I'm not saying he was great, but they just did not, I don't think they analyzed well. Yeah, I mean, as Grand Slam says, they give some of the worst contracts out for players who don't pan out. Pujols, Upton, Hamilton, I just mentioned him. Wells, Rendon so far. Rendon was good, though. I mean, make no mistake, Rendon was much like Freddie Freeman in terms of how underrated he was, but then it just didn't pan out. It just did not go well. Grand Slam, $21 million now for Syndergaard. Yep, too much. I agree. And he's battling injuries. Michael Robinson, the fact that the Angels have trapped the two best players is a crime. I wouldn't say trapped. I mean, I definitely think Trout wants to be there. I mean, they're paying him $400 million a year. I mean, how do you say no to that? And he's been there his whole career, so it is what it is. Now, Shohei Ohtani probably needs to find his way out of there, in my humble opinion. John L., great breakdown on Riley. Oh, you left the stream and went and watched it. Wow. Okay. I appreciate it. Jordan Baldovi. Aloha, Tyler. You're the guy from Hawaii. Aloha. Since Shea Langoliers got traded, who is the Braves' future catcher after Travis and Manny Pena? I think I have videos, so I'm going to pause. Hang on. I think I got it somewhere. Maybe not. I'm going Contreras. I definitely think he's the future as of right now. He can hit, but Manny Pena is signed for 2 years. Travis is signed for 2 years. I think after that, you'll see Contreras either get his shot or he'll be traded, and we'll move on to another guy even younger than him. But if I had to pick one right now, I'm going Contreras. Michael Robinson. I don't know who you're talking about. Sorry. Carly Rude. Olsen's number look eerily similar to Freeman's at the same age. And he's younger. And he costs less. So keep that in mind. Mark Narmore, Olsen gets paid to hit it out of the yard, for sure. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Thank you again, John L. We appreciate you. Danilo Ican, how likely is an NLCS Chapter 3 to happen? Very, very likely, I think. But then again, the Giants almost took out the Dodgers last year in the NLDS. They very well could have beat the Dodgers. And, the Braves got to do it again. It's not a guarantee. But it's definitely a possibility. I think if I had to pick one right now, that's what I pick. I'm going to have to skip the starting pitching thing because I've covered that 6 times on this stream. So if you want to see that, I'll probably repost that tomorrow morning. That is for Roberto Cisneros. I'm running out of computer battery as well, so I kind of have to hurry. Matthew, hey Tyler, did you hear the Dave Robinson went on Dan's Patrick Show and guaranteed a Dodgers World Championship? What do you have to say about that to Dave? I would like to ask Dave Robertson if he would like to guarantee his fans a World Series championship. I would just like him to consider how he uses his starting pitching and whether or not he wants to put his starting pitcher of Game 1 or Game 2 as closer in the 9th inning again. Because that, to me, was the start of the Braves winning the World Series, was that move alone. So that would be my question. Robert Gall says, let's get this channel to 3K subs tonight. Give him a follow. Yeah, I'm really close to 3,000 subs, and it's happened like overnight in a way. So yeah, if you guys would like to give me 3,000 subs, I'd really, really appreciate it. We're at 2,996 as of right now, and that is a live feed check-in. So yeah, let's do that. Let's do it by the time I get off the stream. I only need 4 of you guys. There's 111 of you watching at the moment. So yeah, do that. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, or Robert. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Matt, Robert. I do appreciate that. And thanks for the super chat as well. We're going to move on. If we get 3K, I don't know. I'll do something. I'll come up with something later. Grand Slam. Dave Roberts is talking some nonsense. And I'm a Dodgers fan. You're a Dodgers fan. You're watching my channel? Man. Thank you. I appreciate it. They're definitely a contender to get there, but no guarantees. Yeah, I mean, I think the Braves have the right mindset, right? Alex Anthopoulos, one of my favorite things he ever said was, we don't, go after, a World Series every year. We go after a postseason every year because you can almost, not to say you can guarantee a postseason, but you can assume a postseason a lot of years, right? You know you're good enough to get to the postseason. Right? Or you know that you can build a team good enough to get to the postseason. Whatever the situation may be, you can almost guarantee that. Not every year, but a lot of years you can do that. The difference is you can't guarantee a World Series, but the more years that you're in the postseason, the more chances you have at a World Series. Guys, we just hit 3,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I do appreciate it. I thank you very much for those of you that subscribed. Welcome. Glad you're here, and I really do appreciate that. So sorry to pause on what I was just saying because I completely forgot what I was saying, but thank you again. I really do appreciate it, and again, thank you for all of the support. Thank you for all of the super chats. Thank you for all of it. These past couple of weeks have been a lot of fun on these streams. And again, I can't thank you enough. I've been working really hard on this channel for a lot of years now. And glad to see it's finally getting some consistency and some consistent viewership. So again, thank you. Thanks to the guys who subbed. I do appreciate it. And glad we just hit 3,000. So here's to 4,000 and 5,000 and 10,000 by the end of the year, hopefully. the way it's going, it very well could happen. So thank you again very much. But yeah, in terms of what Dave Roberts was saying, nonsense. Dan Sam, NHL question. Are the Flames relocating back to Atlanta from Calgary? Buddy, that's so far out of my realm. I'm sorry. I can't answer that. I wish I could, but I can't. I'm not, I don't follow hockey like that. Mainly because they moved out of Atlanta, so I don't follow it. I probably should, but unfortunately I don't. Uh, Mark Narmore, I've got to get off of here quickly in a minute. Mark Narmore, May's defense is based on one catch. I wouldn't say that. I mean, he was definitely a good player for a long time, but I get what you're saying there to a degree. I definitely think he's got one memorable catch, but also keep in mind that Andrew Jones had the benefit of SportsCenter, where he could be highlighted regularly on catches. I mean, you don't have to tear Mays down to make Andrew look better. They both are Hall of Fame quality defenders for sure. Candid Fob. He says NHL is not coming back to Atlanta, so there's that. That's all I can really tell you, apparently. Jake Lee asks, this is an interesting question. Jake Lee asks, could Colin McHugh move into the starting rotation? I'll be honest with you, I don't think so. If I'm just completely honest with you, I really don't think that's where they want to go with Colin McHugh. I definitely think he is a pin guy, but he's a guy that can have a spot start for sure because he's done it before in Tampa. But I don't think that's the priority. I think they want him to be a fundamental part of the bullpen, but his part of the bullpen could be in the fourth inning. It could be in the first inning. It could be in the sixth, the seventh. I think he's a guy that's pretty fluid. But thank you for that. Thanks for the comment. But no, I don't think so. That's from Jake Lee. Candid Fob. They learned their lesson with the Thrashers. Look, guys, we got to figure out our NFL team before we can worry about an NHL team. That's how I feel about the city of Atlanta right now. Mark Narmore. Rendon will rebound if bat speed is still there. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, but then again, I keep saying the same thing about Christian Yelich. I mean, at some point you'd think he'd break out, right? I mean, this is a former MVP we're talking about, and he's not come back around. So, we'll see, but it's interesting. We'll see. Daniel Fowler says he would love to see my baseball collection if you have a video. Very impressive. I don't have a video. For a while there, I was doing autograph of the day, and I would do it like just at the tail end of the stream. I would go through and just tell you a story about whatever autograph I had. I think some of those segments are still out there on there if you want to look at those. But man, I'm in like a 15 by 15 bedroom, okay? And I am literally surrounded by baseball memorabilia. This is just what I let you see. There's more all the way around. Those are all the baseballs, but they go all the way up to the wall, all the way up to the ceiling. And of course, I had those over there, but I'm covered in baseball. I have like 20 bats over there. And of course, that is a real bat right there, signed by Bo Jackson. You just can't see it. So I have a ton of memorabilia. I appreciate the question, but I mean, I have so much memorabilia that I couldn't do it in one video, I don't think. I mean, I might be able to, but it would be a long video. Maybe, but I'll think about that for the off season. It's probably a better part of, scheduling for that. But I appreciate the question. I mean, yeah, a lot of people ask about the memorabilia. They ask about specific things they see in the background. Behind my head is Ted Williams. You can see that kind of. Next to me is Harry Carey right there. That helmet is Chipper and Andrew. Pete is up there. I mean, I got a ton of stuff. I mean, it's left and right up in here. I got a NASCAR tire right over there signed by Matt Kenseth if you're a NASCAR fan. I got a NASCAR helmet signed by Dale Jr. I got one signed by Petty. I mean, I got tons of stuff, guys. I got jerseys in the closet signed by like 20 guys. I mean, it's insanity. And to be honest with you, I need more space. Because it's getting to the point where it's overtaking my room in a lot of ways. Mark Narmore, Jansen's signing shores up the inconsistency from the regular season last year. Maybe. I mean, Kenley's good. I mean, make no mistake that Kenley is a good player. I think ultimately, I mean, for me with Kenley, like I think he provides a definite one-inning guy in a bullpen full of other one-inning guys. Like Will Smith was a good closer, right? He's a good closer. He definitely had some inconsistencies, but he was a guy that you could count on in the ninth. Matzek's a guy that you could count on in the sixth and the seventh and the eighth. I think he's become the eighth inning guy, or maybe even the seventh now. But we have so many options now that it's going to be interesting to see how Snick goes about handling all this. I mean, all these guys in the pen, and Kenley provides that. So that's what I think about that. Pete Draper, what is the best trade for the Braves? Oh, okay. What is the best trade that the Braves have made in the 2000s? I'm voting for the Tim Hudson trade. I got to be honest with you, Pete. Tim Hudson's great. I like Tim Hudson. He's from around here for me. He lives like down the street. Not down the street, but down the road. I like Tim Hudson a lot. He's a guy that I grew up watching. But for me, I got to go with the trade deadline as a whole last year. I don't know how you go about, I just don't know how you deny that. I mean, that trade deadline as a whole was great. But no. Mark Narmore says, congrats, thank you. Corey Carter, how long has this show been on YouTube? I've technically been on YouTube since 2015, but I didn't upload anything until about 2017. And that was I think the first one was the Otis Nixon interview, if I'm not mistaken. After that was Dansby, and then I think Chief Nakahoma. So there's a ton of old content. If you guys want to go see a goofy looking 18-year-old kid interviewing these guys, it's kind of funny now. But at the time, I thought I looked like a real-life journalist. I did not. But they're fun. They're fun videos to go watch, for sure. But yeah, it's been on here a while. Carlisle Rude says he collects Braves vintage and modern baseball cards. I have 460 unique Freddie Freeman cards, but I'm not collecting him in a Dodgers uniform. Go Braves. That's a good attitude. Billy Powermax. Oh, this is going to be a tough one. Is it wrong to hate Freddie Freeman now? Yes, and also his name is spelled with an I-E, not a Y. No offense. I think it's definitely wrong to hate him. I think you need to appreciate what he brought to your team. I think you have, much like Matt Ryan, right? I mean, we're losing two guys in Atlanta that have been around for 12, 13 years apiece. And, I think you need to appreciate what, he brought to the team. It sucks that he's gone, but at the same time, appreciate what he was, appreciate who he is. He is a good person. I can tell you that from experience. Freddie Freeman is a good person. I met him at spring training, I guess 2 years ago now, maybe 3. And, I don't know how many guys have ever tried to get an autograph at spring training or just an autograph by the dugout on a regular season game. But a lot of those players will not even look at you. And I've seen many of them walk past kids. I've seen all that, all the negative stories you hear, right? I was there, and I told the story before, but I don't mind telling it again. I was there when Freddie Freeman, he was covering first base. It was just practice. And Freddie Freeman, a little 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid, asked, Mr. Freddie, will you sign my baseball? And Freeman said, I absolutely will. Stopped practicing, walked over and signed for everybody in the section. Stayed around and made sure that everybody was taken care of. And I think he may have even signed multiples. So I'm not saying, that makes him the best person ever. But what I am saying is I can't not like that guy. Do I hate that he's in a Dodgers uniform? Absolutely. But I can't hate that guy. I can't. I appreciate what he did for the team. And I think he's one of the most likable players ever. And I think he will continue to be, whether or not he's in a Braves uniform or not. So appreciate the question, but no. Carl, we got a super chat. How many wins for the Braves this season? If you're giving me the over/under on 100, I'm going right around 100 because I think we're a team that has found itself. I think I would go over on 90 and I'd probably go under on 110. I think we're in between that range. That's where maybe even 95. I'll go over on 95. How about that? Over on 95. Other than that, I can't really give you a definite answer. But I definitely think that the Braves are set up to be successful for sure. Thanks for that, though, Joseph. I really do. I haven't gone through the schedule, to tell you the truth. Not in depth because, I did go through the schedule and then everything got postponed. I haven't gone through it again. So I need to look over that. I definitely think we're over 95, but I'd have to really look at it. And not to mention, we'll see. We'll see. Pete Draper says 161, so we'll see. But yeah, I think we can talk about it, but we'll have to see the results on the field. But thanks for the super chat, and thank you for tuning in. And of course, thanks you to everybody for tuning in. It's been a great night so far. Of course, we hit 3,000 subs, and you guys have been great throughout the night, and I do appreciate it. I'm going to try to finish this up in the next few minutes, and then I'll be heading out of here. So make sure to like the video before we head out of here. But thank you for tuning in as well. Carlisle Rude says most likely to be comeback player of the year is Soroka or Acuna. Acuna, because they'll have a full year. But Soroka very well could come in and be dominant. So we'll see. I think if I had to pick one, probably Acuna. Let me see. Corey Carter says, wait a second, you're an Auburn fan? 2,999 subscribers now. No, I am not an Auburn fan. I live near the Auburn area. I am in Columbus, Georgia, which is right on the border of Alabama. Auburn's about an hour east of us, or west of us. Yeah, west of us. So it's close by. I work for a news company, so we cover Auburn a lot. I interviewed Pat Dye a few years ago. I got a signed helmet from him right up here. I'm involved with Auburn a lot. Not necessarily a fan. I guess I wasn't. I was pulling for Auburn the other night because my coworkers would get to go to Chicago if they won. But obviously that didn't happen. But no, I'm not an Auburn fan. Make no mistake, I'm not an Auburn fan. Go Seminoles. Mark Narmore, why would you hate Freddie? Baseball's a business. He gave Atlanta all he had. Completely agree. Daniel Fowler, thank you. I'm looking to get into some collecting and just got a bonus, so I was looking at some older players like Aaron or Jackie Robinson. If you find Jackie Robinson, I'll be impressed. That one's a good one. Here, I can show you this piece. I've seen some talk about the Dodgers, so I figured you guys have given me so much crap about this piece right here. This Dodgers cap that it used to sit back here, but I got so much. Every video it felt like I had somebody commenting and asking me, like, why do you have a Dodgers? That you're a Braves guy. It's signed by a guy named Al Downing, which may sound familiar to you, but he is the guy who gave up Hank Aaron's 715th home run. It's dated out. It said Al Downing, Aaron's 715th home run, April 8th, 1974. And I just always liked this piece. I actually found it in Cooperstown at an autograph store. I didn't pay that much for it. But I just think it's a neat piece, and it's got some Hank on it, in a way. And I think it's a good Braves piece, while also being a decent Dodgers piece. But yeah, I mean, if you want to know, I got Hank Aaron on a portrait over there. I got Phil Necro and a letter he sent me. I got a lot of stuff. But yeah, I appreciate that, Daniel. If you find Jackie Robinson, let me know. I'd love to see your collection as well once you get to it. All we have is today. I have tomorrow, too. I have to work tomorrow, unfortunately. But you say, I strongly dislike the business aspect of baseball. Well, I think you ought to go watch Moneyball. That might make you have a new appreciation for it. That's what kind of got me into it. That's what made me appreciate like what all these guys do. But I get what you're saying in terms of like losing players, and that's a new thing. It's not something that's been going on forever. I thought Freddie was for sure going to be a Brave. Still disappointed that he's not, even though we got Olsen. I love the deal. But it is what it is. I completely agree. Let me see. How do you? This is from Danilo Econ. How do you see Ozuna's current relationship with the fan base? Do you think his presence can affect the benefit the clubhouse? So it's interesting with him, right? And my computer's so going to die in a second, but I'll be fine. I'll still be here. I got my phone. All right, hang on, Hitman. I'll get to you in just a second. Let me answer this, and then you're next. Danilo says, again, how do you see Ozuna's current relationship with the fan base? Do you think his presence can affect or benefit the clubhouse? So let me see. Let me think. So I'll tell you this. Let's answer the first part first. The fan base, right? I'll be honest with you. I used to throw out theories of how we could trade Ozuna. And it wasn't because I want to trade Ozuna necessarily, but I figured that the fan base would be actively against him. For a lot of ways. But I gotta tell you, a lot of you guys have come to his defense. So I really don't know. That's for you guys to make up. That's for all of us to make up our own minds on. In terms of his presence in the clubhouse, that's something that they're going to have to move past. I mean, how about this? Put yourself in their shoes, right? What if you had a friend that made a mistake and, had all this? How would you handle it? And I think that's where you should leave it. So we'll see. Andrew Choi. Okay, sorry. You're talking to somebody else. Let me get Hitman done. He says he lives in Phoenix City and is a huge Braves fan. So yeah, I'm literally like 15 minutes away from you probably. I'm down the street. I work at WTVM, if you're curious. I'm behind the scenes. If you watch the morning show on WTVM, that's me punching the buttons. So yeah, I'm literally down the street from you. So maybe you'll see me at a gas station one day or something. But yeah, that's basically what I do day in, day out. That's why it's hard for me to get on here and do streams, because I have a real job a lot of the time. And this is, I mean, I think I consider this a job, but most people don't. Let me see. I don't know where I got. Corey Carter, I once saw Cal Ripken stand in the rain for 2 hours signing when rookies trying to make the team headed inside. That tells you a lot about Cal Ripken, right? Billy Powermax, he's a great guy, great baseball guy. He worked for his agent instead of his agent working for him. Yeah, I think so too. I think we're about to wrap it up, guys, unless there's anything big in the chat, which I don't see anything. Carlisle Rude, I'll get this. You should get a ball signed by Tom House. He caught Hank Aaron's 715th. Then you'd have the trifecta. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got 2 Hank Aaron's up there. Believe it or not, I found a Hank Aaron for like $60. Got to know the deals when you see them, people. Got to know the deals when you see them. Yeah, so I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If there's anything else you want to get in the next 3 minutes. But just a quick recap. Again, I'm going to go through the locks one last time because I think we have a lot more guys watching right now. So your starters, again, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Ian Anderson. Those are your absolute locks. The guys that are going to be competing for the rotation are going to be Kyle Wright, Kyle Muller, Tucker Davidson, and Huascar Ynoa. But if they don't make the rotation, I think they are locks for the bullpen. Okay, so here's your bullpen. I think that they will likely be on there if necessary. But your locks for the bullpen on opening day will be Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, Tyler Matzik, A.J. Minter, Luke Jackson, Colin McHugh, and Sean Newcomb. In terms of competing, there's going to be a lot of these guys on this list that very well could make it on to the locks as well. Darren O'Day is one of those guys. Spencer Strider competing to make it on there. Jose De La Cruz could make it on there. He's been on there before. Tyler Thornburg, coming back from Tommy John surgery, could make it as well. Brad Brock, not a great 2021, but he's fighting his way back. He might make it as well. Depends how they do in spring training. Dylan Lee spent time on the bullpen last year. Jacob Webb as well. So that's how I feel about the pen. Again, your locks are going to be Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, Tyler Matzik, A.J. Minter, Luke Jackson, Colin McHugh, and Sean Newcomb. In terms of position players, you got Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Dansby, Swanson, Travis d'Arnaud, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, Marcel Ozuna, and Manny Pena. Competing as of right now is going to be Alex Dickerson, Travis Demeritte, Guillermo Heredia, and Orlando Arcia. And I would even add on to there Phil Gosselin as well. So that's not, that's not everybody. That's not all the guys that are going to be on the roster on opening day. There are spots to be won, plenty of competition to be had. And of course, in this short spring trade that we're having right now, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly the Braves are able to do that. But that's going to be all for tonight. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, thanks for 3,000 subs. We made it to the promised land, and we hit 3,000. So again, thank you for that. Make sure to like the video on your way out, and I will catch you guys later. And with that out of the way, guys, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you later right here at On Deck.